Hi, I'm Bill Squadron, president of Our Energy Policy, and we're very fortunate today to have with us Paula Glover, the president of the Alliance to Save Energy. Paula has been an energy expert in the industry for more than 2 decades. She's had amazing accomplishments, including being one of the leaders in driving sweeping energy policies that help improve efficiency and strengthen our energy laws and landscape throughout the country. So we're really fortunate today to have her with us, and we're going to talk about ASE, what energy efficiency really means in terms of day-to-day opportunities for consumers, and all of the things that are on the horizon. So Paula, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Well, great. Well, why don't we just start with something very straightforward, which is what you would like people to really understand about energy efficiency and how it can really save meaningful money for consumers.
Yeah, I think if people leave with nothing else, what I would love for people to understand about efficiency is that it is an investment today that can provide immediate savings, but continued savings over time. And so it's not as if you're making an investment today and we say you'll save $100 on your bill if you invest in this particular appliance today, and you'll save $100 in the first year, for example. What we're saying is that every year you're going to continue to save that money, and the more efficiency, whether that is technology like smart meters or different types of appliances, or even basic things like making sure that you have really great insulation in your home and good, not drafty windows and doors. All of those savings just continue and continue and continue. And so what seems like sometimes for consumers and others as a large investment really has a payoff over time that doesn't go away. And so I want people to kind of remember that about efficiency and what efficiency does in our energy system.
And so much of it comes down to, very specific, sometimes small, sometimes larger steps. How does the Alliance to Save Energy approach the communication and education component of it, working with local communities so that people can understand what they can do to save themselves money?
Sure. So we have lots of things that we kind of do at the Alliance. The first, I think, is that we really are focusing on policy and making sure that all the policy levers that we need to have in place are in place so that consumers can adopt energy efficiency technology in their homes and in their businesses. So that's kind of the very first thing that we do. And a big part of that is really educating our elected officials, right? And so our members of Congress and even people in our agencies, Department of Energy, EPA, about the power of efficiency, about the impact that these policies can have, positive and negative. So that's the first thing we do. But secondarily, what we do at the Alliance is we have what we call an empowered schools program. And so at 300 different schools across this country, students ages as young as kindergarten and as old as 12th grade are learning about saving energy not only in their homes, but in their schools. And so this program allows students to take on an energy savings project in their school. They investigate the school, they do an audit, they identify an area where there can be savings. They actually then lead in the installation of whatever that is to create that savings. Maybe that's upgrading the light bulbs, for example, in the building. And they can then see, right, what that savings does. And so it's great because not only are you seeing how we're saving energy in a school building, but those students then can take that learning home and apply those same techniques at home and talk with their parents about the opportunities to save energy. And so it is everything, the small things like, right, things that my mother would have said when I was a kid. You don't heat the inside, outside, we don't cool the outside. You always make sure your doors are shut. We're not leaving them open, right? We don't leave lights on if we're not in that room. We don't leave TV sets on if we're not watching the television set. Like all of those little
Yeah, right.
things that are very small habits add up to big dollars every month and over time. And so being able to talk to students about it early and then allowing them to bring that home in addition to all the other education that goes on, I think is really, really impactful.
That
And I'll say,
sounds
I
like
know it's impactful.
that sounds like an amazing program because there's nothing like getting people to learn from an early age and have it really part of their DNA effectively for the rest of their life that this is a way both to, improve the world and save themselves money at the same time. It's such a win-win. And you said 300 schools. That's fantastic. How do we get it into all schools?
That is our desire, to get it into as many schools as possible. I mean, we think it's an exceptional program. It is online. It meets state educational standards, which is something that we are really proud of. So those schools and teachers that adopt our program can integrate it into their curriculum and still hit the markers for science or mathematics or whatever it is that they're using this program for. So that's also really, really beneficial. And we're really in most of the schools in the state of New Jersey. We're in many schools in upstate New York. We're in the middle of the country in Minneapolis, but we're always looking in Alabama, looking at opportunities to expand that program in Los Angeles in the Unified School District. And so 300 sounds like a lot, but we barely even scratched, I think, the surface of the opportunity of students that we can touch. And those of us who grew up during a time where recycling was the new thing, when we have children who grew up when recycling is a new thing, we actually understand like it really does work when your kids learn something at school um, and bring it home, because they're almost relentless if you do not adopt those same practices at home. They're going to remind you all the time that we should be turning off the water, we should be right splitting up our cans or whatever it is that they've learned at school. And I think the same is true for energy, that when students learn those things at school, they're absolutely going to bring that stuff home, and that benefits our households in really meaningful ways.
I think you and I both know as parents, we can learn a lot from our kids about certain
We
things.
sure can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so if there are teachers or parents sort of watching this video, if they contact the Alliance to Save Energy to learn about how their school districts can incorporate this
absolutely.
program, that's something you all can support.
Absolutely. And anyone who's interested, they should reach out to us. And it's not just for schools, right? We started in schools, but this is a program that could be adopted in boys and girls clubs. This is a program that could be adopted in after school programs at YMCA's, at junior achievements, where students are right starting small businesses. And what we know is that energy efficiency is the largest employer in the energy sector. It's not fossil fuels, it's not electric, it's not utilities, it's energy efficiency. And so I love the idea of us maybe potentially partnering with Junior Achievement, because those students are focusing on building a business. I was a Junior Achievement kid when I was in high school. And this is an industry where you can expose students and our future business leaders in our industry through a program like this.
No, it's great. Well, let's shift a little bit to the utilities. I mean, we all, in
Mm.
every community in the country, we have our electric company, our electric utility, and we have federal government, state government. What are some of the programs, some of the leading initiatives that come out of the local utility or the federal and state government that can help homeowners, apartment dwellers, others incorporate energy efficiency programs?
Sure. So at the federal and the state, and sometimes even at the local level, there are tons of different programs. So if we think about the federal level, right, there are lots of tax credits. So we're fighting. We have tax credits in place now. They are actually due to sunset at the end of this year. And so one of the things that the Alliance is really doing is fighting to keep these tax credits in place. Um, for as long as we possibly can, because that is a way to encourage people to make an investment in their homes and in efficiency, as well as landlords if you own a multifamily building, as long as small business owners, as well as people who are just building, right? Commercial builders. Those tax credits are really, really important. So that's something that we're fighting for. But also, many of us may be familiar with the LIHEAP program, which is the Low Income Energy Assistance Program that provides dollars in the winter months, and sometimes in the small summer months, right, for very low income consumers to make up the gap in their bills, because heating bills and cooling bills can be incredibly high. But a subset of that program is the weatherization program. And that program has dollars that then allows community action agencies and other organizations to upgrade people's homes using energy efficiency. So very low income households who may have a hole in the roof, or who may need insulation in their home, who may need windows because the windows are cracked, or may need them caulked, or the whole host of things that we really need to have, I think, a solid home that's right cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Weatherization dollars help to support that. So that's a really, really important program that we're fighting for funding for. And that program, quite frankly, really serves, I think, about 35,000 households a year. The need is far greater than that, but it's still important. At the state level, across states, you'll have other kinds of programs that are similar to that. Homes for Heroes, other programs in across the Tennessee Valley. They have what they call the Home Uplift program. It does something very similar to what I've described in weatherization. Other states may have programs that allow consumers to say swap out their refrigerators. Refrigerators tend to be large electricity consumers. And if you're able to get a newer one that's far more efficient, sometimes there are rebates that are available for consumers to switch out very high priced appliances like a refrigerator, like your HVAC system, if you need a new HVAC system. And so all of these kinds of rebates, tax credits, et cetera, are available, but depending on where you live, um, and whether or not you have a traditional utility company like Con Edison, or perhaps you live in a more rural area where you have a rural cooperative, the programs may be different. So they're not universal across states. They're not necessarily universal within a state. But what I encourage people to do is not only talk to your utility company, most states have a state energy office. And we should also reach out to the state energy office because they also have programs that can be available to consumers that they may themselves be implementing, or they may have hired a third party to implement. And so it's unfortunately there's a lot available, but it's different everywhere you are. And so, and we don't have one place where it's all condensed.
Right. But these energy offices can provide local and
Absolutely.
regional information to people to allow
Yes.
them to take the steps to save themselves some money.
Absolutely. The state energy offices are invaluable resources. And so people should get in touch with them, as are your utility companies. And I think for many times for consumers, it seems counterproductive that the light company would want you to use less electricity, or the gas company wants you to use less gas. Why would they offer me a program that would have me use less of the thing that they're selling me? But they do. And so we want to encourage customers to call their companies when the customer, or look at your bills. They advertise them all the time. Take advantage of those programs because it is important to our utility companies that we save energy. We have growing needs for energy. And so the less that I use enables them to provide that service to yet another customer.
Yeah, I
I
mean that
save
touches,
money
yeah.
in many ways.
It touches on an important point. And I think you're right. Not everyone realizes that even though your local utility is selling you power, they actually are very happy if you use less because there's so much stress these days on our overall electricity grid. We're all aware of what happened in Texas a few years ago when they
Mhm.
had that power kind of catastrophe. People are
Yeah,
always thinking about blackouts, brownouts. I'm not sure people, Paula, always make the connection between efficiency, what an individual does, and the overall electricity grid. Can you talk to
yeah.
that for a minute as to how all these things really interconnect and how we all can contribute to a safer, more reliable grid overall?
Sure. So I think to try to put it as simply as I possibly can, right? The utility company is going to be responsible, let's talk electricity, to provide electricity to everybody in a particular community. And their goal, and they need to be providing enough electricity for everybody on the very hottest day, the day that we're all using the most power that we possibly can, right? And that's how much they're supposed to buy, right? And they're supposed to have on hand. And they buy that power years in advance, right? So when you're in a moment like today where more and more of us are using electricity. We're buying more hybrid or electric cars. We're plugging more stuff in. Everything that we own is connected. Our thermostats are, now you have coffee makers that you can tell what to do, or like all of that, in addition to our use of AI and ChatGPT, and all this additional technology just means that our need for energy increases. And that means that the utility company either has to buy more than they've already bought. That could be more expensive if it's at a higher price. So if we use less, if I use less at my house, not only am I saving money, right? Because I'm not paying for as much, I'm also helping the utility company not have to buy more from somebody else, right? Or build another plant to serve more people, say a new data center, because the cost of all of that is also going to go back to the consumer. So my using less actually helps them spend less, which means that they don't have to charge me, right? If the utility company makes an additional investment to serve more customers, we all the customers share in that cost. And so if all of us can save on our side and they're able to bring in a new customer without buying or building more stuff, we all then save money because they're able to serve another customer with what they already have existing, as opposed to building some other thing or buying some more stuff to serve a new entity. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping I make sense. I think the simplest way that I know how to kind of explain it. So it's like a twofer. There's the way that we save money using efficiency in our own households and in our businesses. And there's a way that we also save money by enabling the utility company
To have to
to
buy less.
better use what they have as opposed to buying more.
Right.
Because when they buy more, that's going to come back to us as well.
On everybody. No, I think that's so important. And you mentioned tax credits a few minutes ago. I mean, you and the Alliance are really the leaders, particularly in federal policy, of trying to strengthen policy at the regulatory and legislative levels to promote and advance energy efficiency. What are some of the policy goals that you all have at the top of your list right now? I know you mentioned tax credits, but I'm sure there are others as well.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, I think our other really big goal is how do we maintain the Energy Star program, which is a phenomenal program. It's a program that not only has some appliance standards so that those of us can go and buy Energy Star rated appliances. Those are appliances, you'll see them marked appropriately, and tell you how much energy you're going to save. And that equates to how much money you will save over the course of a year to use this appliance versus something that's not an Energy Star. The same, it's a toaster, but it's not an Energy Star toaster, for example. And so that program is really important, but it's also important because there's a part of Energy Star that also does for buildings. And so we're having new buildings built or designed, engineered. There's some Energy Star standards that can be met. Um, and right, you don't really want a building that then you have to go back and adopt new technology into and put in more insulation and do these things after this thing has been built. You want it to be built from the ground up in the most efficient and the best way possible. And Energy Star does provide the tools that allow engineers and builders and constructors to do that. So that I think Energy Star is another program that we're really very dialed into. I think at the state level, we're really focusing on ensuring that our regulators are more educated about the importance of efficiency and demand response, but also the value that demand response brings to the overall grid. Regulators today are making lots and lots of decisions. They have, they have their IOU, they have customers, they have consumer counsel, they now have hyperscalers and all other people that they're interacting with. And what we want for the Alliance is we're educating our regulators is for to ensure that they think about energy efficiency first, that we don't overbuild because we don't want to overspend.
Right.
And so it's really important to kind of figure out how do we support them and ensure that they have the answers to the questions that they have in their own minds because they have a job to do. And that then I think also rolls out for us at the Alliance to start to think about how is efficiency going to be integrated into our wholesale markets as FERC has ordered, right? And so we're on the cusp of that order having to be implemented. It's not implemented across the country the way that people had expected by 2025. There are some challenges to doing that. And so for us at the Alliance, we're beginning to think about and identify what are those challenges and then how do we work through those challenges so that, again, greater demand response, I believe, on our electric system and our energy system is better for everybody. Just period. It's just better for everybody. And so we just gotta, it's harder because it's decentralized and it's lots of different nodes and things across the system. Um, but I also truly believe that 20 years from now, if we do this well today, we won't be talking about stranded costs.
Yeah.
in 2 decades because we built stuff we didn't need.
Well, and I think that may be a great place to kind of do a final question. I mean, you really talked about how at every level, every layer, the federal level, the state level, the local level, utilities, business people, homeowners really can have an impact through different policies, through education, communication, from changing behavior. If we bring it down to sort of the individual, I mean, if tens of millions of Americans want to save, and I don't know, I'm sure you know what they might have the potential to save, 5, 10, 15, $20 a month. What are the simplest things they can do that a lot of people don't do today that they can see a savings in their bill and they can really feel good about contributing to the overall electric potential and capability of the country?
Yeah, I would say things that people can do today that are simple. So basic, I would say conservation measures. Um, Check all your light bulbs and make sure they're LED and not incandescent. That is that's a huge energy user that people don't necessarily identify because the light it's working. But there's a difference between having a light bulb that you don't have to change for 15 years and a light bulb that you change every 9 months, right? And in addition to that, as we're doing that, people have to be, I think, and this is probably something we don't necessarily think about, but right, having the right wattage light bulb for what you need. Everything doesn't require 100 watts. Most things don't require 100 watts, right? So we don't
Right.
need a candelabra with 50 100-watt bulbs. If you switch those out, right, to 50, 60-watt LEDs, you will absolutely see your bill go down. So that's like a little thing. But I would say like winter is coming. We need to make sure that our windows and our doors are not drafty. It's easy to just go and seal and caulk everything. We should be doing the same thing in the summertime. Cool air slips out just like cool air comes in. So we want to make sure we do like little things like that. Um, and then I will say, and it's not necessarily energy efficient, but it's important is watching our use of water. Drippy faucets, running toilets. I encourage people if they have a dishwasher to use it. I fight with my family about a dishwasher. But the amount of money that I save on my bill, my water bill, by using a dishwasher as opposed to washing dishes over a quarter is tremendous. So there are lots of, I think, little things that we can do, right? Turn out the lights when you leave the room, turn off the television set. Our LEDs
Yeah,
use a lot of
I know I'm
power.
guilty of it. I know I'm guilty of that.
My house, there's a TV running and no one's in the room all day. And I don't think we necessarily appreciate how much electricity a flat screen television set uses.
Yeah, yeah.
Turning it
Well,
on, turn it off, like all that stuff adds up, right? Little
y-
things add up to big results.
thank you. I mean, you all are doing such great work, and it really makes the point that this is one of those areas. Not every part of the energy landscape is like this, but this is one of those areas where literally every American can both save money for themselves and help contribute to the greater good by employing, just some of the simple things you outlined. So,
Yeah.
you know, thank you so much, Paul, not only for
Thank
all
you
the
for
work
having me.
you and the Alliance do, but for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.